Hey YouTube, it's Penny. I'm recording this on Saturday, the 18th of October. Today is really the first day that I have felt up to making a video. David and I caught a bug actually when we were in New York City, and he got sick first, and then I did. And so anyway, I've been sick, and I'm still struggling, but hopefully my voice will hold up for this video. So I do want to make a video about the stuff that we were shown when we were on that trip. But as I've been working on going through my files this last week and documenting everything that I've been shown, I realized that I kind of have to put things in order or they're not going to make sense. So I'm going to start with this video, and then I'll work my way up to that one. So, okay, so I'm going to go back and begin with April 18th of this year, 2014, when I had a vision of two girls eating ice cream sandwiches. So April 18th is significant. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that my very first video that I posted was called 13 Weeks, and it was pointing to the date of April 18th, which has to do with the Midnight Rite of Paul Revere, which has to do with revolution. And I will do a video, I promise, called Revolution. And I received several dreams that night, and I'll talk about the other ones in the subsequent video. But here he was again, tying together this cycle having to do with revolution and April 18th to ice cream. And so I talked about the I scream, you scream, we all scream for ice cream, I think in the original October Crisis video. So when I first titled that video the October Crisis, it was, at the time, it was simply because David had said, oh, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened in October, and it was tied to that vision that I had of JFK. Well, now I'm beginning to think that perhaps it was more providential than that, because, you know, that was a year ago. Well, since then, you know, right after the first blood moon, we had the, you know, ISIS, so which is part of the word crisis, and it's actually been referred to in the media, I understand, as the ISIS crisis. And then now we're having the Ebola crisis, and you know, in the middle of that word is the ice, right? And he keeps showing me over and over again ice and ice cream. So I'm gonna share a couple more of these with you, these dreams, and then I'm gonna try to tie this all together. So hang in there with me. On April 21st, I woke up to the words ice football. So I know that the Father is connecting my football dreams with all of my ice dreams, my ice cream dreams. I had a dream on the 9th of July about David going to get some money to buy me an ice cream. But while he was gone, my dad took out his wallet and paid for the ice cream, and it was $4.15. And I was worried that my dad would think that was too high a price to pay. Upon waking, I thought maybe it was a clue, because the first blood moon of this tetrad occurred on 4/15, and this ice cream cost $4.15. On July 20th, I dreamt that my freezer was leaking, and I was trying to find the source of the leak, and I pulled out a carton of ice cream, and it had a thick layer of ice on top, like it had been flooded by water and then frozen over. Okay, so he gave me a dream on August 24th that I think it was kind of like the transition dream for me, to start to understand some of this. So I dreamt that someone challenged me to a sit-up competition to see how many I could do in 60 seconds. But they weren't the old style of sit-ups. Rather, I had to do them hanging upside down from my feet. The scene transitioned, and I had half of my hair pulled straight up into a ponytail on the top of my head. Some girls were making fun of me when a man in a position of authority walked into the room and said, "Now that's the hairstyle of the future." Upon waking, I realized that my hair looked like Pebbles Flintstone. So I believe that this dream was about the ice bucket challenge. So someone in a position of authority, and I believe that it's the Illuminati, is taking an ancient ritual and repackaging it as something new. And then subsequent to all of this, I saw that several people are actually suggesting that the ice bucket challenge is some sort of a satanic ritual, cleansing kind of a thing, or almost even like a baptism of sorts, from the flip side, in preparation for mass human sacrifice in America. So, and one of the reasons I believe that is true, because on August 30th, I heard the word Mayday, Mayday over and over again. And the next day I was reading and discovered that the Illuminati was actually founded on May 1st in 1776, which ties in with, the revolution video that I'll do in the future. So I think that the Illuminati is behind this ice bucket challenge. And then this is really interesting. So back on August 31st, 2 years ago in 2012, I had this dream where I was at a grocery store at the meat counter, and there were all these human brains that were wrapped up in butcher paper that were for sale. And one of the packages was larger and more expensive than the others, and it was labeled Lou Gehrig. And I understood, that it was his brain that was being sold in the marketplace. So at the time that I originally recorded a video about that, I thought that the Father maybe was showing me the devaluation of human life or something like that. But, as I get further into all of this, I'm beginning to see like, oh, he was showing me Lou Gehrig's disease is going to be sold to the masses in the marketplace, and they're going to consume it. And that is what is happening now with this ice bucket challenge. And the thing that's also interesting is I've watched a couple of videos about the ice bucket challenge, as I've been researching this. And what do people always do when the ice is poured on them? They scream. So we all scream. So fast forward to 2 years later from the day that I had the Lou Gehrig's dream, August 31st, 2014, I heard the words, "Nothing will stop the people of blank," fill in the blank, "in their pursuit of Watershed." So the context of the dream that I was having was about Ferguson, Missouri, and the uprisings there and stuff. But I didn't hear, I know it wasn't Ferguson that I heard. "Nothing will stop the people of blank." I thought it was a different city, but I can't be sure, so I'm not gonna share that. But I did understand that the word watershed was used in place of the word bloodshed. So according to Webster's dictionary, watershed is a time when an important change happens. It's also a critical dividing point, line or factor, a turning point. That same night, August 31st, I saw a woman walk into a room. She was all wet, like her pants were all wet, and she asked her husband, "What's happening?" And it was obvious that her water had just broken, but she acted like she wasn't expecting it. Like she didn't even realize that she was pregnant. And then I had a third dream that night, August 31st. I dreamt that the wind was blowing petals of hydrangeas in my face, and I was saying, "Oh great, why does it have to be hydrangeas?" So upon waking, it occurred to me that, there might be this connection between wind and water, since the root of hydrangeas is hydra. And when I looked up the constellation Hydra, because I thought maybe it was connected, I discovered that it's commonly represented as a water snake. I also discovered that there are 88 modern constellations, and that factors into a subsequent dream that I had. But on this water snake thing, I think that this ice bucket challenge is connected to Ebola, and maybe that's the mass human sacrifice that's coming. And if you think about what the Ebola virus looks like, it actually looks like a snake. So August 29th of 2014, I heard a woman say, "Forget 666, I like 888." And a man replied, yeah, but what's that? It's 24. And then he said, you have to build a bridge to the next number. And upon waking, I saw the number 888888. So I think this is about the constellations, maybe the constellation Hydra, or I mean, I know that there's a lot of stuff that he is trying to show us in the sun, moon, and the stars, that we're supposed to be looking up for a reason. So I haven't gotten this all figured out yet. But according to some people, the number 44 represents the judgment of the world, which is interesting because Obama's the 44th president. So if you double that, then 88 would represent double judgment. And so 888888 would actually be like double judgment times 3. But it could also be one more dream pointing to the third blood moon, or it could be pointing to the Third World War. I don't know. On October 6th, I dreamt about eating ice cream and frosting. Lots of frosting on my ice cream. And I have had all these dreams recently about frosting ad nauseum, like over and over again, frosting. And so upon waking, I asked the Lord, like, why do you keep showing me frosting? And he said, Penny, it's not frosting, it's icing. It's like, oh. So when I grew up, we called it frosting. I've never really called it icing. So he's showing me, I believe, the icing of America. And that same night, October 6th, I dreamt about a woman who was being forced to put up these propaganda flyers of cartoon characters like Miss Piggy, which, by the way, I think he showed me Miss Piggy because a pig is unclean. But these flyers were warning people about Ebola, and this woman was saying that the flyers were designed to cause people to panic, and we know that we're not supposed to have fear. Okay, so on October 11th, I dreamt that I was taking care of Susie Flippo's baby boy. This is a girl from high school that continues to recur. She keeps showing up in my dreams and visions, and I believe it's because whenever I see her, she represents the flip side. So she had a 10-week-old newborn, and the baby that I was taking care of was older than that. And so I took the older baby, to her, but she was too busy for him. Like she was getting ready to go somewhere with this newborn. And I asked her, would you please at least hold your baby for a few minutes to comfort him, because I was taking care of him. Okay, well, what's interesting is that 10 weeks, because this baby was 10 weeks old, this newborn, 10 weeks previous to October 11th, the day I had this, was August 2nd. And that's the very first day that the Ebola virus was on U.S. soil. That's when they brought Dr. Kent Brantley to America. So perhaps, the fact that Susie Flippo was going somewhere with the newborn represents the new Ebola virus being flown in the air. Or maybe it's new because it's airborne. I don't know. Whereas like maybe the older versions of this virus were not airborne. But either way, if that's what he's showing me, then the mother, Susie Flippo, the mother of the Ebola virus, is the enemy, the flip side. And this is interesting. People have been talking about the fact that they believe that Bill Gates is behind either the Ebola virus or at least the vaccine. So, for example, somebody said, however, the government wants this dirty vaccine, meaning that there's a clean one that's already been through clinical trials, but they want this dirty vaccine that will carry Marburg virus, which is a cousin to Ebola. And of course, I did a video called Marv about the Marburg virus. It's a win-win for globalists like Mr. Microsoft, referring to Bill Gates. He will stand to make almost $1 trillion, and the Marburg virus will kill you off anyway, just like Ebola. And they, meaning the government, will claim that you died from a mutated version, like a new version, right? So when I was reading all this, it brought back to my memory 14 years ago on my birthday. And 14 is a significant number if you watch Ray's videos. He's the Psalm 34 verse 18 guy that I recommended. Bill Gates Sr. Was the the chairman at that time of the United Way campaign in Seattle. And I was working there along with, by the way, Libby Gates, Bill Gates' sister. We were working there as loaned executives on the fundraising campaign. And Bill Gates Sr. gave 2 football tickets to the vice president of United Way, who took me to the football game on my birthday, October 13th in 1990. And the Gates family, they were sitting behind us, and it like all kind of came together for me. And I thought, so many things in my past he's using now to show me like things in the future, or that he has divinely orchestrated my life in such a way for things like this to be like, oh my goodness, like I went to a football game on my birthday, tickets from the Gates family. It's just weird. Anyway, it also reminded me that back on August 9th, 2012, so this was very close to the dream that I had about Lou Gehrig's disease, I received several words regarding the CDC, and I was shown a logo that included the letter P. Okay, well, at the time, and this is in the video called Silence for Sale, if you want to look at that, at the time I didn't understand what the P was for, but it's the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, so that's what the P was for, and this is what the logo looked like. So at the time, the 2 words that I heard were, the first one was Controlled Death Panel, and the second one was Procuring Development, and the last word started with a C, so it was like a flip. It was PDC, and I didn't catch the last word. But anyway, I'm sure there's a clue there. So the fact that the CDC is the one that is behind all of the, what I would say, propaganda about the Ebola virus and the Marburg virus and all of that, and obviously they will be the ones that would be pushing this vaccine, whatever it is. I believe that the Lord was actually warning me back 2 years ago about this, that this is, also in the fact that in that video, I was shown that that people were being silenced for money. Like they were keeping their mouth shut. They were taking bribes, basically. Okay, I'm gonna try to wrap this up with two final thoughts. I did a video back in 2012. I think it's titled Maitreya, and in that video, I showed a picture of a guy who appeared in 1988. Here's 88 again, to a crowd in Nairobi, Kenya. So here's the connection to Africa, and people thought that he was, Jesus or something. And anyway, I'm going to read a little bit. It says, the tall figure of a barefooted, white-robed and bearded man appeared from nowhere and stood in the middle of the crowd. He was walking slowly towards the new church building away from the tent. Mary walked with him, side by side. I stared at the stranger without blinking. Strange sporadic light wafted on top of his turbaned head, his feet, and his entire body. In clear Swahili, which had no traces of accent, the strange man announced that the people of Kenya were blessed, especially those who had gathered at the venue that afternoon. And he said, we are nearing the time for the rain of heaven, but before that, I shall come back and bring a bucket full of blessings for all of you. So, a bucket full. Ice bucket challenge. I don't know if it's connected, but the other thing that's interesting is that I was watching a documentary on the Ebola virus, and they showed this little boy on the bucket that has, they say, become kind of like the poster child for Ebola in Liberia. So the photo of the man who appeared in Kenya looks an awful lot like number 44 in the White House, who says that he's from, his father's from Kenya. So I don't know. It's all connected somehow. Thanks for hanging with me to the end of this video. I'm gonna continue to try to put together a couple more videos. My voice holds out, and I'll get these uploaded as soon as David has a chance to review them and pray over them. So Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, our Lord God, King of the universe.